Hello brothers and sisters, and welcome to the channel. I am Brother Lewis, and I want to start off today's service by reading one of my favorite passages from the good book. Let he that is without sin among you cast the first stone. Now in this case, we're not talking about actual stoning. We'll get to Islam in the next video. But rather a metaphorical stones cast by left-wing ideologues. Over the past year, I've been pushed further and further from the left by their increasingly rigid ideology and victimhood complex. The people that I always viewed as the most open-minded, forward-thinking, and accepting became the least tolerant, and they started to enforce their school of thought with a fervor that mirrors dogmatism. This caused me to draw some pretty interesting parallels between the left's agenda and something that they have always damned so vehemently, the Christian religion. The way that religion permeated society and tried to enforce itself on people ended up just pushing them in the opposite direction. And now, ironically enough, the left is doing the exact same thing by attempting to force-feed you their often absurd doctrine. So retreat to your holy temples, aka safe spaces, you plebs, for you will find no mercy here. Number 1, original sin, being white. One of the primary principles of Christianity is that of original sin. Simply by being born, you are damaged goods in need of repair. You have somehow inherited all the sins of your most ancient ancestors and must seek redemption. This concept is carried on by the left with the idea of white guilt. By being born a certain color, you are now responsible for the actions of those from the past and must seek atonement by shouldering the blame for those actions that are not your own. You must first admit you are racist just because you're white. Admit you have contributed to the systematic oppression of minorities just because you are white. Lay down your life by being a mouthpiece for the cause of fixing what you have done wrong just by being white. By doing this, you will be forgiven of your transgressions and be allowed to enter into the kingdom of moral superiority to where you can preach to the masses about their own inherent oppressive nature. Number 2, convert or burn. Accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior or face an eternity of anguish and destruction. We're all pretty familiar with this, and now the left is applying it in a real-world sense. If you don't comply with their ever-widening spread of demands in their ever-narrowing field of what they deem as acceptable thoughts and ideas, then you are unfit, unclean, and unworthy to stand among the moral elites. Whether it's women being kicked out of a women's rights march for being pro-life, or whether it's ex-Muslims like Ayaan Hirsi Ali and Majid Nawaz who are speaking out against the oppressive principles of Islam and then in turn being labeled anti-Islam extremists, the left has made it quite clear that their code is to be followed unflinchingly and without question, or you will be ostracized and face charges of racism, bigotry, and a word I can't even believe people use with a straight face, Islamophobia. Who are you going to listen to about Islam if you are unwilling to listen to someone who has walked out of the fire? If you dare to bear witness to anything that doesn't match their narrative, it's to hell with you. Number 3, faith in feelings. The 2016 Oxford Dictionary word of the year was post-truth. Post-truth is defined as denoting circumstances in which objective fact is less influential in shaping public opinion than appeals to personal belief or emotion. The left has now been placing so much faith in their feelings that they have begun using it as their only means of navigation, as if emotion always points true north. The plain, bold-faced facts of a situation do not matter if they conflict with your feelings. Besides, facts are just products of the corrupt and dishonest patriarchy, right? This is no different than religious zealots who deny what is right in front of them because they have themselves so convinced that what they feel must be true. Emotions are, at best, an uneasy and unpredictable place to center yourself and must be displaced in the face of factual information. Your feelings will be hurt, and it's damn important for you that they are. Number 4, blasphemy. Professor Jordan B. Peterson of the University of Toronto recently came under fire and subsequently rose to popularity for opposing Bill C-16 in Canada, which amended the Human Rights Code to include misuse of preferred gender pronouns as hate speech, thus pitting you against the state if you fail to refer to someone as Z, Zir, or any of the other pronouns on an ever-growing list of made-up words. speak our language, or face prison, all under the guise of compassion and respect. Do you really think that demanding a certain behavior of someone to reinforce your fragile identity is going to garner you genuine compassion and respect?
And if I'm forced into a position where I have to validate your identity, it's like, what if your identity is wrong? What if it's pathological? What if it doesn't serve you well? And I start validating it. You think I'm your friend? I'm not your friend at all. I'm a mirror for your narcissism, and you will disappear and drown.
A new movement in Canada, M103, seeks to silence critics of Islam, potentially clearing a path to place that criticism in the same hate speech category as the gender pronouns, demanding one type of language and restricting another, all to protect that which the left deems sacred. Language is a tool, perhaps the most powerful tool that we possess, and you weaken your tool when you wield it so haphazardly by constantly throwing around your favorite buzzwords, and then to turn around and attempt to disarm others while you continue to make false accusations with impunity? Number 5, the Crusade. When you have the state on your side, it seems as though you can get away with almost anything, including violence, as was the case at UC Berkeley, where Milo Yiannopoulos was scheduled to speak. Before he could even utter a word, protests turned to riots as people who were even suspected of attending the event were beaten in the streets and pepper sprayed. As the rioters paraded through downtown, smashing windows and destroying other property, the police presence was almost non-existent. This may not indicate a condoning of the behavior, but it at least indicates a complacency. A short time ago, these same people could do nothing but complain about police brutality, and now they're practicing those same actions on those they see as apostates. These people also sing the praises of socialism, a political doctrine that carries with it a higher body count than any other. A crusade has begun, and though it may not yet be state-sanctioned, there's history to show us what happens when it is. And the left seems to be romanticizing that and actually calling for bigger government. As I said before, the left has weakened their most powerful tool, language, and now violence is the tool of those who have run out of coherent arguments. Number 6, the Crucifixion. Christ on a cross, it's Bernie Sanders on a cross! If the left has viewed anyone as their savior, the way, the truth, and the life, it is Bernie Sanders. He appealed to many young voters by spouting a utopian ideology that isn't grounded in reality. But watch out, Bernie, because you know how this narrative ends. The savior must be sacrificed.
The left will come for everyone, even their hero, Bernie Sanders. Let's not forget, he's a rich white man with 3 houses.
Bernie is already guilty of original sin, but worse than that, he is an ideologue and a socialist, which balances him on a razor's edge. The moment he strays slightly from the left's agenda, he will be crucified with the rest of them. Just wait and see. Part 7, Resurrection? This final chapter is for us to write. A resurrection of true liberal ideas, with freedom of speech being at the foundation of it all, and a rejection of ideology and dogma. A new center must form based on logic, cooperation, and a free and open market of ideas. The election of Trump was a rejection of identity politics and has so far served as an extreme counterbalance. In 4 years, we do not need an even heavier weight to throw us in the opposite direction, but just enough to balance us out and put us back on course. Lefties, it's time to admit that you fucked up. You backed a candidate with an extensive history of scandal and questionable dealings, and your arrogance and moral grandstanding is directly responsible for who sits in that Oval Office right now. Not everyone who opposes you is a Nazi. Not everyone who wants strong borders is a racist. You didn't lose the election because there are white supremacists hiding around every corner. You lost the election because your politics suck. Stop doubling down on everything that lost you this election and rethink your approach. Because if you continue to preach the same bullshit you're preaching right now, you can guarantee 8 years of Trump.